you ask people about their experience of the school, and you'll get lots of different answers at different schools, but something that kept coming up in this case is that idea of home. And I think that's something that a lot of schools can talk about, but you really wonder, does it really feel like a home? In this case, it clearly does. You have these people, and I think one parent was telling me about how when she dropped her daughter off, when she drops her daughter off, and there's Martha Perry, she's the headmaster, and she's holding the door open for the kids and greeting them at the beginning of the day. And in this parent's words, there was that sense of, we're home again. Even though she's not even going into the building, her child is. But that sense of just that groundedness, that sense of being home. The way they welcome new students, I think, is great. So I was talking to Elena Holton about, she's the head of admissions, and how, is there an interview? And there always will be an interview at a school. A kid needs to go and meet with the people and get a sense of it. But you need to be clear as to what that interview is for and what it's intended to do. And I think at some schools it does feel like you're being tested. And in this school, Elena said she really hates that word interview. She doesn't even like to call it that. She likes to think of it as just a chat. So let's come in and talk about you. Let's learn about you. Let's learn about you. You can learn about us. And I think that's how new students really are welcomed into the school. They really get a sense that it's not about, am I good enough or whatever, but this is a relationship that we're entering into, and I think it's a very comfortable one. And that's what students report, what parents report as well, is they're often surprised at how comfortable that sort of being a new person or a new family to the school really was. They did feel very, very welcomed. So the school was started in 1901 by Canon Thomas Wesley Powell, and he was with the Anglican Church. He was a canon within the Anglican Church at St. Clement's. And he really wanted to start something. His idea was to start a school or to provide education that was just a bit friendlier than what a lot of people had experienced. He wanted something different. And so that's what he did. And it started literally in the church basement with like 9 students. And at that point it was co-ed. And Powell's sons were some of the first students there. But I think what's striking when you look back at this stuff and you look into the history is the way people talk about Powell. And his son later said, my father could do anything. And people, he was that kind of person apparently that would inspire people to say those sorts of things. He was just a great guy, could really animate a room. And I think, that's something that really remains with the school today. Like, how can we do things better? How can we do things differently? And the school has constantly changed throughout its life. Obviously, it became an all-girls school at one point. They moved out of the church basement into the location that they are now. And then through the 60s, I was reading the principal at the time, a lot of things were happening in the 60s. A lot of change was happening. And they talked about the need to change, but also the need to really respect their traditions. And I think they've always gotten that right. They've always been willing, like Canon Powell initially, but everybody else through the years, to really look ahead and see what do these kids need? What do they need to leave here with? And we know that they need to leave here with a lot of strong relationships, because kids don't learn unless they have relationships with each other and with their teachers. So that's first and foremost. They need to feel the confidence that you get from being within a shared community and feeling your place within it and feeling very grounded within that. And they need all the skills that they're going to need, which again have changed over the years. Schools like this have really lengthy, notable alumni lists, and I think too much can be made of those often. But in this instance, one of the alumni is Margaret Macmillan, the historian. And I think that she, sort of her personality is in many ways very much the personality of the school. She's one of these people who is just exceptionally intelligent, yet soft-spoken, and clearly very confident, clearly very engaged within the communities that she's a part of, including the school community that she remains a part of. And I think that that's sort of what the school feels like to me. It just feels like one of these schools that is really grounded. It's very much grounded in tradition, but is able to look ahead and look out and look beyond. I think the students who go to the school really feel very, very cared for, yet they also feel challenged again to look out and to look beyond and to try new things. And so it's just a very, very grounded school, a very grounded institution. So the intention of the administration is, and they'll say this, is to really be at the forefront of girls' education, and they mean that in all sorts of ways, and certainly that's very, very important. And certainly they are. I think this is a school that a lot of schools look to as an example. They look to it for best practices, but also they're involved in that larger conversation well beyond the school. So the principal, Martha Perry, she sits on the board of the National Coalition of Girls' Schools. So they're involved and are leaders in the field, certainly. And you can look at it that way. But the other aspect about Martha Perry, the principal, is that she herself was a student of St. Clement's. And she really prizes that the culture that's at the school, and the longer arcs of time, the traditions that the school has, and the culture that the school has. She feels it's part of her job to continue that, and certainly she does. Kind of the outlook. She's also a very interesting and easy person to speak with, and a delightful person to speak with. So I definitely recommend anybody who's interested in school talking to Martha. And you know, she'll talk about how some people, I talked to her about academic rigor. You know, what does academic rigor mean to you? And she says, you know, some people think a rigorous education is one where kids have 5 hours of homework every night and they're just blistering through the material. And certainly that's not her view of it. She thinks that a rigorous education is one that challenges students, but also challenges them. And she kind of said, you know, on the soft skills, but she even used that term, sort of not liking it. Is why do we call these things soft skills? Like using our voices, but also being able to listen. How do we interact with other people? How do we collaborate with other people? Can we work in groups well together? And I think she's very aware, as we all are, that these are the skills that students are really going to need as they move forward. And so it's those things in lots of little and big ways that she really likes to bring forward in the girls' experience of the school. They do have a very strong one. I was talking to one student who actually gone on to Harvard. She was at medical school at Harvard, and that's all very august and everything and very impressive and whatever. And she spoke really honestly about her experience of moving from St. Clement's into this other environment and then coming back again. And she's so happy that she can come back again. And she really just does really feel a part of it. And that's not something that she finds where she's moved on to. And she really liked that St. Clement's was that place that gave her that sense of this is where I am, this is where I'm from. And there are other challenges when you move on. But that sense of belonging was the thing that she really thought of. And it's funny, you asked her about what things did she take with her. And she kind of chuckled and said, you know, one of the things she mentioned was that one of their teachers taught her how to take notes. And she felt that that was one of the greatest skills that she took with her beyond the school. Obviously, that's not the only skill, but it was interesting that that's one of the things that she mentioned. Well, I think it's the size. I mean, there are, 400 and some students in this school, but that's across all the grade levels. So, you know, each grade is a fairly small group. And they really are known. I mean, there's just no question. And so, you know, the students might come forward with some issue that they're having trouble with. But certainly if there's something going on in their lives, teachers or other students are going to pick up on that, and they're prone to act on it. I think, again, because of the size of the physical space, that the older students and the younger students are all sort of getting together formally and informally. There are formal mentorship programs between the older students and the younger ones. But again, because they're all jumbled up together, they're not kind of really kind of hived off into their areas, that they all see themselves as part of the same community. And I think that's a great testament to the school. These are girls that can have a lot of fun with each other, no matter what their age is. And it's just charming to see those sorts of interactions in the hallways. There's a very free, kind of flowing camaraderie between them all. So yeah, it's one building, and I think one of the things that distinguishes St. Clement's in some ways from other schools is that it is just one building and everything is within it. And it's a bit like the TARDIS because it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, seemingly. I mean, they have all these labs. They got a 350-seat theater space, and on and on and on. They really have everything, but it's all sort of within this limited space. And to their credit, it's just really, really well designed. It is a school of age. I mean, it's over 100 years old, but it doesn't feel that way. The buildings is much newer than that. But again, they've made a lot with what they have just in terms of space. But it is funny, it's in a very, very busy area of the city. And when the school started, the TTC didn't extend up that far. There's a picture at the reference library at UT of the property in 1922, and it's just surrounded by an orchard sort of thing. It's just in the middle of nowhere. And clearly it's not anymore. So that's kind of interesting. The city has grown up around it. And fittingly so. I think now the students obviously are able to access public transportation to get there, and it's right in the thick of it. This is a school that really prizes that sort of hands-on, curiosity-driven kind of learning. And there's a certain gleefulness. I was talking to some of the students about the things that they're doing, and this one student, she explained something to me that I totally didn't understand in the least. They were isolating bacteria from a jellyfish or something, and she explained this to me, why they were doing this. They were studying, I think, the resistance to antibiotics. I mean, it just seemed very, very high-flying, and it was. But this was something that I think the students had come up with, some question that they were trying to answer in their biology lab. And just the way they talked about it, it was like this. They were just gleeful, literally. They just thought this was the greatest thing. And I thought that was such a great sign. If you can animate students' curiosities to that level, that, they're working with jellyfish and doing something, and that they can talk to a stranger about it in that way, I mean, that really says a lot. That's not something you often see. The school is really based in sort of mentor relationships. So again, relational learning. So the idea that you can't really learn anything unless you have a relationship with the people that you're with in the room. And that's where it begins. And so that's very important. But I also think it's important for any girls' school that every leadership role within the school is a woman. Every student that's succeeding at something, in sports, in debate, in theater, they're all women. And I think that's one of the strongest things that an all-girls education can give, is that sense of aspiration. And Martha Perry talks about this herself. It is a small school, and that's in terms of numbers, but also in terms of space. The property is not sprawling. And they've done a lot with the property that they have. But one of the benefits of it, I think, given that it's sort of landlocked in a sense, is that they haven't been able to develop out and make big wings for like the junior students or whatever. You can't isolate students in that way. They're all together, which is a great, actually, thing for the school. And Martha talks about when she was in grade 7 and looking up to the senior students and thinking, wow, they're so wise. That was her word that she used. And I thought, what a great word. And I think that the students that go there now see that as well, because again, working in this environment, the students are able to demonstrate that they know something, that they're intelligent, that this is a place where everybody is smart and they follow their curiosities. And so they look up to other people that are really succeeding in all different ways. And that is such an important part of the program. So the girls, they grow up within it. They see these people, they rub elbows with them in the hallways. There's a lot of intergenerational mentorship. It's formal and it's informal. But they leave with that sense of aspiration, and they take it with them out into the world. So I was saying that the school is very able to look forward. It never kind of rests on its laurels. I think that's been true throughout its entire life. It's always looking to do things better. And certainly in terms of wellness, they've created the Linkwell program, which is one of these programs that is so unique, it can be hard to get your head around. But again, it's the idea that, what do we need to do to provide wellness? We want them to have the tools that they need when they go out in life to stay well. And that, of course, doesn't just mean, going to the guidance office when something goes wrong. It's so much more than that. And so the Linkwell program, the intention of it is to really place wellness in every aspect of student life. So that includes, informing the curricula in certain areas. It's about the food that the students eat. It's about, it's about the counseling and how the counseling occurs, and on and on and on. It really is, again, hard to get your head around. Well, because of where they are, I mean, the school doesn't have, extensive fields or anything like that in terms of sports facilities, but they do have 2 full-size gyms within the building. I mean, the design is amazing of the building, so they do have a lot of activity within the space. But then again, where they are, they have access to so many things, like Eglinton Park and other things. And so I think you might approach the school, given its size, given the facilities, that they don't have as robust an athletics program as maybe other schools do, but they actually do, and it can be quite deceiving. They field 40 teams, and they compete in CISA and OFSA, and so it is a very active school. It is a sports school, even though you don't see that driving up. But it is so all-encompassing, and really kind of is infused in every area of the school. That was its intention when they started it, and that's how they're developing it now. So wellness is just something that they really think of first and foremost. And I think are developing a program that a lot of other schools are going to look to, as they also make that transition from saying, wellness means we have some fitness, and we have counseling services for the people who need it, and there's good academic counseling, and it's over in that room. I mean, this is not that kind of school. This is the kind of school that sees wellness as everybody's job in every aspect of student life. This feature review has been published as a book, and it's also available online at ourkids.net.